Well, hello there all, you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays. We talk about nature while playing games. We are back in Coral Island here, while the crows have just eaten one of the seedlings that's growing here in our little farm. Now, of course, again, with me being an ecologist, we are trying to play in as environmentally friendly manner as possible, and that includes planting a variety of crops kind of interspaced with one another, and we are also going to plant quite a few plants for the pollinators, and we'll get to that in a moment. We also, at this point in time, don't really care about the fact that the birds are eating some of our seedlings because, well, that is part of gardening with nature. As we often say, you plant some for yourself, you plant some for the birds and some for the insects, and some, I guess, just for pathogens attacking them. So you always plant more than you're going to need. Now, this does not mean that we're not going to place scarecrows down. We are definitely going to place scarecrows, but it's not going to be now. I think when it becomes available, then we're going to start using it. But today on the agenda, we are going to expand our little farm area here. We're also going to see if we can perhaps go diving. I guess that is going to happen someday soon. And we're also going to do a bit more fishing. And of course, very soon, we are going to start ranching as well. We should get access to cattle and chickens as well. And we should then also be able to get some animal products. Of course, when it comes down to that, we're also going to have those animals and keep them in as environmentally friendly manner as possible. And we'll talk a bit more about that when the time comes. For now, though, it's just a case of quickly clearing up a few of the stuff lying around here. We need more logs, so we'll just harvest some of these logs over here as well. And we'll clear some of the trash, just so that our farm can start looking pretty. Now, of course, we don't want any trash lying around, because over time, some chemicals contained in the trash there would, in theory at least, leach into the soil. And once it gets into the soil, yeah, that is really not great. Now, we do finally have enough wood to actually craft the makeshift chest here, so we are going to do that. But we, in the process, have kind of run out of energy. So yeah, there we go. It is kind of a problem at the beginning of the game, having enough stamina. Because, well, you do run out of stamina so quickly. But let's catch something. Let's see if we can catch anything in our little pond here. Little waterfall flowing in, and then, of course, leading into the river. And we're just going to try and pull out whatever we have over here. Most likely going to be a shrimp. I think it's going to be a shrimp. Maybe a zebrafish, but I think it's shrimp. And it is indeed a shrimp. It says that the shrimp travels in schools. I'm not sure whether these shrimp, I think they are most likely kind of social. Of course, traveling in schools, that'll be for safety. So it is so they don't get eaten by everything else around them. And we're going to see if we can perhaps catch something else here. And there we go, we have caught something else. I suspect this is most likely also a shrimp. Maybe it is a tilapia, actually. We'll see in a moment. This one is putting up a bit more of a fight compared to the shrimp. And indeed, it is a tilapia. Now, tilapia are freshwater fish, and it says they're a common freshwater fish. They also tend to be mouth brooders. In other words, the females will keep the eggs in their mouth, and then the eggs will hatch in their mouth. Then the mother will let the little babies go outside to feed a bit, and then when there is danger approaching, the mother opens her mouth again, or the babies swim back inside, or at least try to swim back inside. A nice way for the mother to keep the eggs and babies more or less safe. Now with that, we really have run out of energy. We only have 25 stamina left. But let's see if we can perhaps find something interesting to forage. Now we've got a wasp flying around there. We're not going to waste energy trying to catch that now. We are going to just spend our time running around looking for some interesting things to pick up from the ground. Now, we do have the ranch here. I don't know whether we can even buy anything from the ranch yet. Well, technically we can, but we do need a coop for that. We don't have a coop yet, and we definitely do not have the money to go and buy even a chicken at this point in time. So we're going to have to wait a bit until we can do that. Let's see what we can forage and perhaps then sell. There we go, we have got some violets over here and again some wasabi. Now last time I did mention that when you eat wasabi with sushi, you're most likely actually eating horseradish rather than actual true wasabi, because real wasabi is really challenging to actually grow. And I mentioned that they require flowing water, and that is one of the things, one of the typical ways that they are grown would be along some flowing water, but that's not the only thing. They also do require relatively cool temperatures, and they usually grow best in quite shaded environments. They don't do very well in full sun, nor if it is a very hot environment. So because of that, they can really only grow under certain conditions. And it does mean that they are very, very valuable because they are so difficult to cultivate. And that is why horseradishes are generally used most often. And that's what you will be eating instead of actual wasabi. And there we go. We have caught a praying mantis, and when you look at that, we have No more stamina. That is a dangerous condition to be in. Okay, so we're going to have to... Oh, we should be able to eat the morel here. Yeah, indeed, we should be able to just eat the morel. That's going to give us some stamina at least, just so we have some color returning to our screen again here. We are just going to run around and just pick things up from the ground, not actually catch bugs, because that does take quite a bit of energy, quite a bit of stamina to actually catch the bugs. And there we go, something is happening in the town here. A whole bunch of people really upset about this company Pufferfish over here, and I suspect they were responsible for an oil spill that is ravaging the ocean. Of course, the lead person of Pufferfish is called Karen, because, you know, of course they are. And well, Pufferfish is an oil drilling company that really is stuffing up the environment. So yeah, there is quite a bit of an environmental message here in Coral Island, which is nice. I do quite like that. And what is interesting is that Pufferfish here seems to try and show themselves as the heroes trying to bail out this failing town. And that is very often what companies like that would do. Try and paint themselves as the saviors of the community, even though they very often are actually destroying the very environment that the people depend on, as is the case here in Coral Island, where the people here in the town, here in Starlit Town, are very much dependent on the environment around their town, and well, Pufferfish is now destroying that environment that the town is dependent on. Let's quickly go have a look and see if we can perhaps donate something to the museum. I think we may be able to. The museum does appear to be open, so let's have a look here, shall we? Indeed, and as you can see, it seems to be very empty. But we are going to change that by slowly but surely donating some things to the museum. So let's give them the common starfish as well as the praying mantis. And there we go, now we should have, there we go, there is the starfish, in fact now, in the aquarium section of the museum. Now later on this is really going to be upgraded, but this is a nice little exhibit to start with, and then we should have, I think these are the artifacts and gems, and then here, oh, this is still part of the aquarium. Now where are the insects? Oh, of course, it's right this, it's right here in the middle, and there in fact are the mantids we have just given them. Ah, that is awesome. Okay, so cool, let's actually go home, sell some stuff, and then we'll start the next day. Alrighty, time to rest. Alright, we made quite a bit of money there. Well, for now, starting out, we've made quite a bit of money. Later on, we are going to make much more than that. But for now, I am happy with 376 bucks. That's quite nice. And apparently, the cavern, the mine, is now open. So we should be able to get a few interesting things in there. So that is something else we can also do. But now, let us quickly harvest some of the plants here. We've got some daisies we are harvesting, some turnips we are harvesting, you know, the faster growing crops we have harvested now. Let's try to catch another fishy, shall we? There we go. I suspect we have another tilapia. Now, I think we are going to do is, as soon as we actually can, we are going to build a fish pond, or 2 or 3 or how many ever, and we are going to at least start out with by breeding some tilapia. Tilapia are very popular fish in aquaculture. Oh, there we go. We actually have a crayfish, not a tilapia. But tilapia are extremely popular in aquaponics, which is where you have your agriculture, where you've got your plants, combined with fishing. So with fish growing in a tank. And how that works is that the fish, obviously, they get food, and then the water within which they poop, that gets pumped to the crops. And that contains usually a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus, which then fertilizes the plants. And then the water trickles through again and trickles down to the fish again, and again they get fed, and over time that water then gets pumped through the plants again, and it's all a nice little system there where at the same time you are growing plants and you also have fish that you are cultivating. And of course tilapia are also edible. They're not massive fish, but you can grow them relatively easily, and as a result you can actually grow enough food to support quite a few people in a relatively small pond. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to try and alleviate hunger here in Starlit Town, just support everybody in the area here by breeding tilapia and then selling it to the beach shack. I think they will take fish from us, and in the process then we are supporting a small business as well, which is great. I think that will be the best thing to do in a socio-ecological manner. Now let's actually take the shrimp here, we're going to take a crayfish, we're going to take the tilapia there, we're going to take the barracuda, the blue tang, the zebrafish, all of these things we're going to donate to the museum now. And there we go, just donating a whole bunch of little things here. We got a reward, we got some candied tree seeds, which is always nice. And then we're going to just head on over here to Sam's general store here. Oh, we've got a quest. Let's see, what is the quest? The errand is 1 moral for Dipper. Okay, so we do need to go get a moral and give that to Dipper. And then we're just going to sell our crops here, get some money. And then, of course, also get some seed here. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things we can, 6 things we can buy here. We can have 18 open spaces. So let's buy 3 of each seed, just so we can have a proper interplanting of crops. All right, so let's start by actually planting a few seeds kind of willy-nilly all over the show here. And there we go, seeds everywhere. Now, let's go look for those morels again. I did get some earlier, but unfortunately, I did sell them all. So let's just see if we can get some more morels again. We do have that quest there for Dipper. But while we are here, we may as well have a look and see... Oh, we've got a black phantom ghost fish from the trash here by the carpenter. But let's actually have a look here at the carpenter. What we need in order to build the fish pond? Well, 7,000 coins. That's going to be difficult, as well as the gold kelp essence. So it's still going to be a very long time before we can actually get the fish ponds here. So what we're going to do in the meantime first, though, is actually get a coop. So we do need 2,000 coins for that. That's also going to still be a bit. And we need bronze bars. So we do need to head into the mine to go get some bronze and actually start smelting that. Now, interesting that we can get bronze ore, but bronze ore doesn't exist. Bronze is copper mixed with tin, usually. Arsenic as well in the past, and I chatted about that in one of the previous Enshrouded episodes as well. But bronze is not an ore you just mine. It has to be it's an alloy of copper and usually tin, nowadays at least. And there we go, we have caught a snail. Really doesn't take a lot to catch these little guys. They are so slow. Interesting, it says there, it is a true nomad carrying its home on its back. Now, of course, snails cannot just come out of their shell completely. Their body is fully in there. Of course, the shell there being a bit of protection for the snail there to try and protect it against predators. However, some predators really don't care. First of all, that shell is not extremely thick. I mean, that is... Oh, there we go. There's a moral. Perfect. That shell is relatively flimsy, so crows and birds and stuff, thrushes for example, will easily pick up the snail and just bash it until the shell is broken, and then they get the juicy snail inside. Other things like slug eaters, which are a type of snake we've got here in South Africa, they specialize in eating slugs and snails. Of course, slugs are not in a shell, but snails are. And all they do is they just grab onto the snail and then twist their body in such a way that they manage to pull the snail out of its shell. Kind of like a corkscrew coming out of a bottle. That is how they do. They pull the snail out of their shell. I guess that is one way to come out of your shell, although I don't think they enjoy coming out of their shell that way. And here we are in the cavern now. There's some earthquakes, you know, the usual stuff. And well, here we are just going to quickly head on down and just mine a bit. We do need some bronze ore, as this is called here. I guess it's actually more copper ore than anything else. And well, there are some nice bronze ore deposits right over here. And all the while we are trying to find the hole that leads to the next level. And it will be in here somewhere with some of these rocks we can smash. And there we go, we have opened up a hole to the next floor. And we can now go down. However, only at level 5, 10, 15, 20, and I think 25, 30, and then level 40, will you actually have an elevator that leads you back, that saves your progress. Oh, yes, there we go. There's our sword. I was just wondering, don't we have a sword to actually attack these little slimes? Typical little low-level monsters we get to fight to start with. Now, luckily, fighting doesn't actually use stamina, which is great, considering that we are going to do quite a lot of it, and very often while we are quite exhausted. But yeah, that was just basically to have a look at the mine. We are going to come here later. I'm probably going to do a bit of mining off screen as well eventually, but for now that is the mine. We get our bronze deposits there, we get our bronze ore, and then we'll be able to actually smelt the bronze and actually upgrade our tools, our pickaxe, our axe, our sickle, or scythe as it's called in the game here, to make it stronger. And now let's just donate a few more things to the museum. We are making some nice progress here, at least starting out. We're going to really donate things very regularly, and later on it's going to be a little bit more challenging to actually catch new things that we haven't donated yet. And there we go, another little reward, some potato seeds, 8 potato seeds. We'll plant those as we harvest some of the other crops. And Scott of the museum now wants to chat to us about something. Apparently, there's a blueprint for a bigger museum, and the idea would be to really have a proper museum with full sections just for aquatic creatures, for fossils we're going to get, and of course for the artifacts we can get as well. And well, it's going to cost a lot of money, but they're going to have basically a Kickstarter just called the Pickstarter campaign. And we need to make a lot of donations, and eventually the Pickstarter campaign will really kick off. Or pick off, I guess. But there we go, it is the end of the day, and that means it's time to sleep. And we have finally leveled up our farming to level 1, which means we now have access to the makeshift scarecrow, which we can now make. Of course, our fishing also leveled up, which has given us access to the small fish bait, but we can't craft that yet. We do need seaweed for that, which we don't have yet. And a bit more money. New record for our playthrough now. Pablo, here's the local blacksmith. And, well, apparently he already knows that we have been exploring the cavern, and now we should be able to craft the furnace. There we go indeed. So let us... a crow has eaten another one of our seedlings right over there. Let's see, what do we actually need in order to craft our... First of all, our furnace. We just need a few more bronze ore, so 8 more bronze ore, okay. And for the scarecrow, we need 9 more wood. Well, that's not too difficult. What we are going to do is we are going to chop down one tree. Oh, there's a log we can just get there. And we're just going to chop down this oak tree over here. Hopefully we actually get some seeds to replant so that we don't chop out more than we actually replant. But it is kind of blocking our view of our garden here, and in essence and also kind of blocking the sun that would otherwise be shining into our garden. And there we go, we have got an oak seed. We're just going to plant that a little bit more to the side here. Always put back more than you're taking out. And now we should be able to actually craft, there we go, we can craft 2 makeshift scarecrows. Now this is not ideal. I would have liked to actually cover most of the crops here. But you know what, this is okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to, for now, place it like that. And like, I guess this. Actually, I think placing this down here would help us cover more crops. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, some crops are covered, but not everything is covered. These ones are still vulnerable to the crows, but that's better than nothing. That's better than nothing. We're just going to fill a gap or so. Any other gaps we have? No, it's just that one gap. We're just going to fill that with a potato seed. Of course, potatoes, well, they're actually worth quite a bit of money. And now let's see if we can perhaps get some more ore. And of course, anything else we can forage on the way we are going to get. Well, there's a little leaf beetle. I do like the leaf beetles. Let's see if we can catch this little one. If it comes in range of our net. Maybe. And yes, indeed, we have caught the leaf beetle. It says that it has a bright metallic sheen, most likely for camouflage. I mean, first of all, it is green in color, and perhaps the iridescence there makes it a little bit more difficult to focus on it. It does scatter the light quite a bit, and maybe it actually prevents predators from easily recognizing that that is in fact a little beetle. Now, why is it a beetle and not a bug? Because, well, it has got a very hard shield-like wing cover. So the outer wing covers of beetles are generally, not always, but most often, it is quite hard. And underneath there, they will have their membranous wings that they will fly with. Lady beetles, for example, even though they're called ladybugs very often, it's actually more lady beetles. They also have that hard wing cover. Whereas true bugs will, instead of having a hard cover here, they would have an outer wing that is semi-membranous and semi or half hardened, but not quite as hard as a beetle's wing. And they actually belong to the order Hemiptera, which means, well, hemi means kind of semi or half wing, because half the wing cover is hard and the other half is soft or membranous. Now, as you can see here in the mine shaft, we can only go to level 1 again, and again we won't have that little hole that we found earlier actually present. We have to start from scratch every single time, unless we manage to make it to level 5. Oh wow, we actually, with the first rock we have hit, we found the hole. That is wonderful. But if we get to level 5, we can just carry on from there next time. Again, we have got some slimes we can fight, and these slimes, well, they very much remind me of gelatinous oozes from Dungeons and Dragons. And if you had seen the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie, that was very enjoyable. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But in there, they had the gelatinous ooze. Now with the slimes here, they don't have a fixed shape, and they use their oozy body to actually jump. There we go, we got a geode. Oh, geodes are awesome. Inside there, if you break this open, there would be something inside. In this case, something valuable, but usually you'd have something like amethyst in there, or some other crystals that may form inside the geode. But these slimes over here, these oozes, they most likely actually contract their body and then store some potential energy in there, release that energy, and then jump forward in the process like that. There we go. A nice visual representation of what I was just saying. And they most likely move in a very similar way to some of your smaller microorganisms, things like amoebae or protozoans, by actually just extending their slimy body forward. Very cool little critters, two of them together. Very often also find them hunting in packs, most likely as a defense mechanism, but also to share the food that they actually obtain. Any unfortunate travelers that they encounter in their mineshaft. There we go, we actually reached level 5. That is brilliant. We can just carry on from here next time. But any unfortunate adventurers that they manage to overpower will be shared by all the oozes that took part in that hunt. We're just going to make our way out of the mine again because, well, our energy levels are quite low. But we should now have enough bronze ore to actually make the furnace. And there we go, we've got a wasp here that we have managed to catch. Dangerous when agitated, keep back. Well, that is a very, very clear color that we see there. That is what we call aposematic coloration or aposematism, black and yellow. That is a clear warning color. Oftentimes you have black in combination with yellow or orange or red. Those are the vivid warning colors that something will have. And a lot of insects will have this clear black and yellow markings here, indicating that they either are dangerous, like wasps, yellow jackets for example, or bees, they also have this, or they are insects that mimic those wasps and bees, things like hoverflies and some beetles and just some other flies as well. They tend to mimic the colors we had there to try and trick predators into leaving them alone so they're not disturbed or eaten by those predators. Alright, but here we are back home again. We can craft a furnace. That's going to be marvelous. Let's just actually place it down over here, I think. Somewhere, yeah, I think right over here. As you can see there, we need 5 ore and 1 coal to actually craft a bronze bar. Now we only have 1 bronze ore here, so nowhere near enough to do that yet, but we are going to get some hopefully later on. For now though, we are going to again pop in by the museum to go and donate some more insects here, the wasp and the leaf beetle. Brilliant. And let's see whether we can actually catch the blacksmith open still. Yeah, they are open until 2 o'clock, so we have a bit more time to head on over there. I should actually have brought the coffer as well next time, but we have got the geode here that we do want to open. So let's have a look here and see what we get inside this geode. Thankfully it only costs 20 coins to do this, and we got Lepidolite. Now Lepidolite, the name there, Lepidolite, the light section of the name there actually comes from lithos, meaning rock or stone, whereas lepido, like think Lepidoptera, those are butterflies and moths, and Lepidoptera means scale wing. So here lepido refers to scale, so it's actually a scale rock, because if you were to have a look at an unprocessed one, so not like this one that is already processed or smoothened out, they actually are a typical mica rock, which means that they've got little flakes that you could technically break into these little small elastic plates, thin little plates, and well, it is basically giving a scaly appearance to it. And oftentimes they are purplish in color, like we do have with this Lepidolite here, and they very often are found in granite rocks. Now we're just going to leave it here in the chest because that is a nice little safe place for it. But you know what, on that note, I think that is a good spot to end today's episode. We are very tired at the top here, so we're just going to go to bed here, end the day. I don't think we made any money there whatsoever during this day. We did unlock foraging level 2 here, and we'll actually be able to make the kiln, which we can use to make glass, which will be very, very nice indeed. And we also leveled up our mining here, which will allow us to make explosives, and that's very, very useful. And yes indeed, no money whatsoever made during this day. But thank you very much everyone for joining me on a little adventure here. If you enjoyed it, please give the video a nice little like. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It really helps the channel out and it lets the algorithm know that this is a nice video. It should be shared. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, please pop them down in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer as best I can. And until next time, everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers.